We're good.
We'd like to welcome everybody to Planning Commission tonight. We're grateful you're here. Love to see people here. We're going to start off this evening with a pledge and a prayer. Louis Nuttall will give us the pledge, and then I will give the prayer.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we humbly approach Thee this evening in gratitude for the circumstances which we find ourselves in. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet as a planning commission and as a community. We're grateful for the beautiful place that we live and for the opportunity we have to serve each other. Please bless us with Thy Spirit this night that we may accomplish what we came here to do and that we may have a good and productive discussion. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Okay. First item on the agenda is consent items. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended action. And the first three items on our agenda are consent agenda items. I assume that the commissioners have had an opportunity to review those items. And if you don't have any specific requests to discuss them individually, I will accept a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent items as outlined in the agenda.
Okay, good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Okay, that takes us to item number 4, consideration of an ordinance amending Mapleton City Code Section 18.56B, eliminating the age restriction on some units in the Sunrise Ranch development. So let's move to item number 4, and I assume that's you, Sean.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So the Sunrise Ranch project was approved in 2018. It included a total of about 540 units. There was a mix of single-family dwellings, townhomes, and 255-plus neighborhoods. The city did not request or mandate the senior component of the project. It was just what was being proposed at the time. The original developer then sold multiple phases of the project. Bird Homes and Regal Homes bought almost all of the senior units, and both of them recently have come to the city with a request to remove the limitation on 55 and older, to remove the age restriction requirement. This is the master plan of the Sunrise Ranch development. If you look at the top, this is where Bird Homes owns. This is Highway 89 and 800 North, so right across from Fizz. And then Regal is, if you drive, this is the hollow, so on the northwest corner of the project. We did have a discussion item on this topic with the City Council to make sure before they move forward with a formal application that it was something the council would be supportive of. And the council's position was yes, they would be supportive of the removal of the age restrictions, partly because there's the state emphasis on the need for housing options. They felt like this would provide some housing options that didn't currently exist. And because it was not part of the original approval, it wasn't something that the city mandated to begin with. And so their position was they would be supportive of that, and staff is in concurrence with the council. So our recommendation would be that you would recommend approval of the proposed ordinance amendments to the council.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion from the commission? Any items as you've reviewed this? This is a public hearing item, so I would open the mic for public hearing. If you do have a public comment, please make sure and state your name as you come to the mic for public record.
Hello, my name's Dade Rose. I'm the managing partner of Regal Homes. We're one of the applicants in this situation. Just wanted to express our support for this change. We actively market to older communities, but what we've found is that people like going there because they don't feel like there's a stigma attached, and it's been interesting for us in this community that I think people feel like, you know, if I move into the 55 plus, that means I'm really getting old, you know? And whereas people are feeling much more active and outgoing, and even though predominantly we have most of our home buyers are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, they don't want to feel like it's being forced down on them or there's some sort of government requirement. So we support this change, and I'm available for any questions if you happen to have any this evening.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we recommend approval of the proposed ordinance amendment.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Item number 5. Let me scroll down to it. Here we are. Consideration of a request to rezone 26 acres from A2 TDRR to Planned Residential Community PRC 9 and to vacate a portion of the Maple Hills Lane. Sean.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. So just kind of go over some background of this project. This also was approved in 2018. The city approved the Maple Hill subdivision, which consisted of 26 lots on approximately 38 acres. At the time, the property was owned by an entity called IDL Company, and the property was zoned A2 with a TDR receiving site. If you look at the exhibit behind you here, the area in red is what was part of the original Maple Hills development. And then the area in yellow you can see here up on the bench, that's the property owned by Mapleton City that we received as part of the TDR program. This was the approval, the original layout. You can see primarily 1 acre lots, and then there was one larger parcel. Originally it was about 10 acres. When they sold it, after the approval, it is now about 11, so a little bit larger than what was originally shown. So IDL later sold the 25 lots to Patterson Construction and the 11 acres to another entity. Patterson then bought 2 additional acres that was also already zoned TDR as a TDR receiving site. So if you look on the exhibit in the back, this was the 2 acre parcel that they purchased and are now proposing as part of their PRC zone. The property also previously was in the 100-year floodplain. However, they've done some work, installed a culvert and done some other improvements that have addressed the floodplain issue, and FEMA has removed that and the area and the homes that are located south of this out of the 100-year flood zone. One of the reason we're here really tonight is as they were doing additional geotech work for the future phases of the project, there was identified some fault hazard areas that were not previously identified. And so with that concern, the applicant came to the city to say, hey, is there a way we can re-look at the design of this project? We thought that was a good idea because something we really wanted from this project was the ability to have access to our TDR property and to the hillside. So we began to discuss, okay, looking at a PRC zone and also including a public trail amenity as part of the plan. So the application before you tonight is to rezone their property to PRC 9, which would give them more flexibility in lot sizes. You'll recall the PRC zone doesn't allow more density, it just allows flexibility. So rather than every lot being at least an acre, they can mix and match, have some smaller, some larger. So that's what's being proposed. They're proposing to construct a trailhead parking area and a trail access for the city, so that's free of cost to the city, which we think is going to be a fantastic amenity. And the applicant's property has increased by 2 acres, but they've decreased the total proposed number of lots. So we're getting fewer lots on more acreage than what was originally approved. The lots range in size from half an acre to over 6 acres in size. So this is the proposed concept. On the map that you can see in the back, this kind of highlighted area is the fault hazard area. And so what they've done is they've pushed and clustered the development more to the west. These are larger lots, but the buildable area is towards the west. And then these are more of the half-acre proposed lots. On the plan, you can see at the north end is the proposed trailhead parking area and the trail that would work its way up on top of the bench. As far as the trail goes, we mentioned in the staff report, we've been doing a lot of community outreach over the last few years as we've updated the general plan, as we've updated our the city brand, as we've looked at the Trails Master Plan. And what we keep hearing over and over is the desire for trail access, and especially access to open space, which we've been able to achieve through the TDR program. So when we when we adopted the Trails Master Plan, one of the things they looked at is they looked at this site as a potential option for a trailhead location so that we can have an opportunity to access that north bench. And so as we mentioned, we've been working with the applicant to provide that amenity. This is just an exhibit out of the Trails Master Plan showing the desire to have that trailhead at this location. This is an aerial of the proposed alignment. The applicant hired a trail professional to come out and look at the site and try to identify what the most sustainable location was and the best option for public access. So that's what's been laid out on the plan. This is just a visual of the area that the city owns up on top of the bench. This is a view from that property looking south. Obviously fantastic views, a great opportunity for this public access. And then this is the existing trail that runs north and south, that runs south to Maple Canyon that we would tie into. As far as the general plan, we summarize this in the staff report, but just quickly, the property is designated rural residential, which densities is 2 units per acre or 1 unit per acre with TDRs. The original average lot size was about 1.4. The current is 1.6. So again, on average, there is more open space and more area. The average lot size in the vicinity is also about 1.6. There's probably 20 lots within less than a quarter acre that are less than an acre already. So it's pretty similar as far as looking at existing lots that are less than an acre mixed in with much larger parcels. So it's consistent in that regard. The general plan encourages the conservation concept, encourages the implementation of the TDR program, and again, encourages the implementation of trails. So our recommendation would be to recommend approval of the proposed rezone to the City Council. Be happy to answer any questions if there's any for me now. I know the applicant's here as well.
Can you go back to the one slide, Sean, with that showed the fault hazard? Yeah, that one there. So everything above the yellow line there is, or in between the 2 yellow lines is the fault hazard.
Correct. The actual line through this property that is not owned by Patterson has not been fully evaluated. So this may not be 100% accurate on their property, but for this section it is. And so yes, the area you see here on these lots will be open space. They could put like an ag building or an outbuilding, just no habitable spaces would be in those portions of the lot.
That was going to be part of my question, so, okay, thank you.
Sean, what's the, on plat, or lot 303, it's a 6-acre parcel, but the actual buildable space is quite small, and it's a funny design. What, with setbacks, what is the actual space they would have to build?
It's still quite a bit. I don't know the exact amount. We did look at that with the applicant to make sure it has a substantial building footprint. They have that one. They have one of the emails in the packet was from the individual that's looking to buy that. They're actually looking to purchase a few of these lots together. But yes, there is still enough to have the type of house you'd expect on a lot in this area.
It looks like the intended use for the trails is for hiking and equestrian. Is that
Primarily hiking, yeah.
okay? My concern has been, as I reviewed this, is that there's only 8 parking stalls for the trail system. And if you, like the other trail systems in the city, Whiting Trail up there is frequently inundated with parking, and it becomes a parking hazard even at the mouth of where the gate is. I'm wondering if we need more parking. Has there been a study to see, if we need more parking?
Yeah, we haven't done a specific study. The long-term concept would be this is really kind of a neighborhood access, and that as Maple Canyon develops out further and as we're able to connect, that's really where we would push the majority of the users. This is meant to really provide, right now, the access we don't have, but as we build out the system, to be more of the secondary access rather than the primary.
What metric was used to decide that it needed 8 stalls?
There wasn't a specific, it was an applicant saying, hey, we're willing to help, and this is what we'd be willing to construct.
Okay. Any other questions from commission? Would the applicant want to address anything additionally?
Thank you. I'm Ross Welch with Patterson's. I just want to mention a couple things, and I'm going to have to ask the pointer to help me out here a bit. When we bought this plan originally, the road was going right through. You can see where the road is showing right there.
Right here.
Right through in front of Rob Reed's house. And so we didn't like that. We went ahead and acquired that from the property from Tim Kreiser so we could veer the road off. We've installed a lot of things that we feel like have been helpful to the community. We think this is a great addition to the community. I know some people have concern about that there's going to be half-acre lots in what was originally zoned a 2-acre zone. And I think, to me, I look at it as 2 acres really defining density. And with the TDRs, you're down to 1 acre, but we're looking at this going, we actually have less than what was originally planned here. And as far as property value issues, we've got a development on the hillside there in Alpine. I mean, they just had a home listed on these half-acre lots at $5.2 million. It's not like these are inexpensive homes that get built on these half acres. So overall, we think this could be good. We're looking to, for example, if you say, hey, we look at this a little more and say, by the way, can you put in some parking? Fine. That's not a big deal for us to add another spot or 2. But we're really pleased with this guy. We've gotten out of Park City to do this trail, and he'll come and construct it to where it'll be functional, usable area, because right now, nobody can access or use this property, and this will make it really nice. I hiked up there on a rainy day with Sean, and it really is spectacular views up there. So it's a great place that way. And in answer to your question regarding the building, the dimensions that you see that are highlighted on each, that's the building pad area. Now, I don't have my reading glasses, so I can't see it, but hopefully you can. And so they are actually fairly significant. And the fault line that you're seeing, that yellow, as he mentioned, is just the one to the west that we've been able to identify. That represents our setback off of it. It's not the actual line. It's based on the study, they said we had to be at least 25 feet off of that. And so that's what that line represents.
Good clarification.
Any questions? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing item, so I will open it to public hearing. If anybody would like to come up, please state your name as you come to the mic.
I'm Tom Ewell, And my wife and I have a property that adjoins, is just south of Plat A2. And my question is, what's the future of Plat A2?
You're talking about this here?
Yeah,
Yeah, those are staying as currently platted. So they're about 1 acre lots.
1 acre
Those
lots.
two. Mhm.
Okay. And just a matter of curiosity, does water rights go with these individual lots?
They've dedicated the water already for the majority of these, I believe. I'd have to check our records, Ross, but I think we've got most of the water dedicated already.
Okay.
So that's
thank-
dedicated to the city, not individually owned by each lot?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I think my wife and I are pretty happy with what has been proposed here.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Ewell.
Hi, I'm Michelle Anderson. My property joins this as well. I'm totally opposed to this. If you look at all of the surveys that have been done, even the most recent one of Mapleton residents, the very first item that they always list is the rural feel of Mapleton. These properties were all supposed to be 2 acres. The TDR system is totally out of control and has allowed it down to 1 acre, and now we're going to ½ acre. I'm on a 2.5 acre property myself. This completely, now with Clegg Canyon, which is on the other side of 400 North, the new property that is going in, or new development, excuse me, we are getting a taste of what it looks like to have the mixed density. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter to me that one of those or a couple of those is over 2 acres. It's almost irrelevant because the rest of the neighborhood is so dense. It completely erodes the entire look and feel, the experience of the rural that myself and the majority of Mapleton residents have said that they really respect and why they targeted this area. It's one of the reasons we targeted this area. So even though you've got mixed and some are larger, a 6 acre, it's irrelevant because it's gonna feel like a dense housing, just like when you go down further south. And I just wanna know when the city council will hold the line on, I mean, we're up abutting the absolute eastern edge of the city. When are we gonna hold the line? Where? In what case are you ever gonna hold the line to maintain the rural feel and experience that Mapleton has offered? We're one of the few left in Utah County that does that. I also want to comment on the trail. It sounds like we're selling off this experience that a lot of us have moved here to have, so we can have another trail. But as you know, up Maple Canyon, there's trails. We also have the Mapleton Trail, so I'm not as interested. It falls below the priority, I think, if you look at the surveys of Mapleton residents in general. Rural is above the trail issue. And I'm curious, you mentioned the 20 lots that are in the surrounding area that are under 1 acre, but how many of those are actually from the Clegg Canyon, which was just approved in the last 2 years?
There's 5 or 6.
Yeah, so I think that's what you're getting a skewed perspective when you add that in. And if you've been up there, you can drive through, not even all the houses are in there yet, but some of those are, I mean, it's like I'm down in the single family home kind of experience, how close they are. So I really ask you to please hold the line on this, to maintain our rural experience here. If we don't hold it here, where will we hold it? As you know, the preserve was overwhelmingly, when that was tried to be rezoned a few years ago, overwhelmingly not approved by the residents. So I respectfully ask you to please maintain the integrity of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Any other public comments?
I was gonna say mine last, but I thought you'd get up. I'm Craig Murdoch. I live at 1893 East, 400 North. In 2018, when this came to the council meeting with this design and that, one of the major concern was there's only one road into this subdivision and one road out. That's 2000 East. And during that meeting, Corey brought up that it was only under city ordinances could allow 30 residents in along that 2000 East and that whole that whole area of development. At that time, you had Paul Edmond, Gardner's, Cribbs, Reed, Kaiser's was one. You had the Steele property up there, and you had the 10 acres. That's 7 properties. Now, if you allow 30, when I went to school, subtract 7 from 30 is 23. So I don't know where we came up with 26 lots to begin with. Now, that's all zoned as A2, and it has been cited as a TDR. During that meeting, where there was only one road coming in, 30 home sites, and that, it come to the agreement between the city council, residents like myself that adjacent to that property, and the development of Patterson's, that they could all live with the 1 acre lots, and that there would be no lots larger than an acre. In 2018, we come to that agreement, and it was put in to the city meetings and that, which would have meant 23 lots, not 26. Now, for 30 years, I've owned and been CEO of my own corporation. My corporation has operated in 8 states. And in that 30 years, I've made some very intelligent and smart moves and acquisitions and everything else. But along the line, I also made some that weren't so great, and I had to step back and wonder, why did my emotions or didn't do my full research on it, and I acquired things and that, and come to realize that, you know what, it wasn't working out, and it was costing me money. But instead of passing it to my employees to absorb the loss, or to my customers, I had to bite it, write it off, and move on. This development is not Patterson's first rodeo. Regardless when you buy property, there's always going to be hidden factors. That's just part of doing business. It's not the responsibility of the adjacent residents nor the city to buffer his profitability in that subdivision, because at the end of the day, he goes home somewhere else, and us adjacent property owners have to live with it. When I bought that property in '83, the city required that I had 2.5 acres and a minimum of 250 feet of frontage. Now we're down to A2. And now you're throwing the TDRs that can take it down to 1 acre. And now you want to take the majority of that development and put it in less than acre lots. When do you take the consideration of us that have to live with this if it goes forward? So I also noted in reading your state that you made a statement in the farther plans down there that guess what? Now they're adding a trail. Well, I got news for you. From the original drawing that was submitted back in 2006, it puts in a 10-foot trail access right there. And that's the letter that went out to all of us in 2018. So I am totally opposed. I was opposed when Smoots wanted to develop it. I was opposed when the other company, and when it came to all of us agreeing, that's when Patterson says, we can live with it, we'll move forward and buy the property from the other developer. So I think they ought to live with what was agreed upon and not come back when things don't work out and request that we take care of their profitability. sorry, nothing against Patterson's, but there was something else that came to my attention just recently. When Patterson's bought this, they hired a tree outfit or someone else to go along Ashman's big pine trees, and they took and butchered the whole sides of them pine trees, whacked out the whole sides so trucks can get in and out of there. From what old Jim Ashman told me, it was the agreement that Patterson would take care of the removal of the trees. One day I happened to be walking the irrigation lines and I noticed that the Patterson's group was sitting there talking to a lady, which happened to be a landscaper, on talking about getting those trees removed from Jim Ashman's property. Upon that time, I advised them that there was a 4 to 6 inch lateral high-pressure culinary line going down through there, and to this day, the trees are still standing there. But from what I understand, or what's been told to me, that on the old Kaiser property, that they took and purchased and then curved the road away from Rob Reed's porch. Now, in order to give Ashman's a kind of a deal, instead of paying for the cost of the removal of the trees, they're going to turn around and give them so much property to offset it, which will make Ashman's to where they'll have a total of 4 acres. So that means in the near future, if they want to put another house on there, they can subdivide that into 2 separate 2 acres and put a home. But how are they when it's going to only be 30 homes in that whole development? And after they've been there that long, are you going to deny them the right to put a home on the existing A2 property? So I'm totally opposed to it all. I moved here to get away from Orem. When I was a kid, I could never figure out why that 6-lane road. Well, I sure know now when I go to Orem. That's why I left, because I don't want to be in the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch.
I thought that was very well said, and I agree with him 100%. So I'm Lori Sheranian, and I'm the Still property, and I own 130 acres on the other side. The proposed trail will go up one side of our property. And first I'll address the trail. I understand why people want trails, and I know Sean's best interest is in the city and making trails, and I appreciate Sean. So currently, you don't have a pointer, do you? So where the trailhead starts. Mm-hmm. So you say that circle really isn't there now? That cul-de-sac is really on our property, but it's not? Is that right? Or is that really the accurate one?
All they're showing is what would happen to the road if you decide to develop yours.
Okay.
You'd be able to turn around.
Okay, so currently, about 9 months of the year, people fill up this parking lot at least 2 or 3, 4 times a night. Trespassers are non-stop. We have posted every 10 feet, no trespassing. So now there's going to be a trailhead, so lots more people hiking up by the side of our property. And as they go further up the mountain, I mean, the police go there 3 or 4 times a week. They have the gate codes that just go in and constantly kick people off. Every 10 feet, we put no trespassing signs. Nobody cares. So that means they're also probably not going to clear up the mountain where people can't even access them or see them. So we do worry about trespassing. We have them trespassing in from the top all the time, and we find a lot of bad things up there. We find drug paraphernalia. We've had squatters. We've had just all kinds of things that you wouldn't want up there. People are out of sight there. So when they start up a trail, especially a little bit further up, they are out of sight. So I worry a little bit about that because it's hard to control when it's off the pavement, let alone if it's now further up where I don't expect a police officer to go. So that is a concern to me. As far as the zoning goes, so Mark and I, my husband and I, we did the TDRs on our upper land so that it would stay remote and that nobody would build up there. And we were told that the TDR receiving sites would never go below half. So it would be half. So I too really like the 1 acre lots. I look at the lots that are built on 1700 East between 1200 and 1600 that we sold years ago to someone else. And all those people, you know, they bought that acre totally planning that if anybody, every one of those people that bought those acreage, those 1 acre lots on 1700 East, every one of them called us and they said, do you plan on developing your field? And I say, we don't plan on it, but you never know. They said, but if you develop it, are you going to go 1 acre lots? And I said, I believe it's the moral thing to do, 1 acre lots. So that's what I would want to do. So in my opinion, and you know, Sean may differ, and I don't know all the rules like a lot of you do, but the way that I understand it, I have 30 acres on a flat down there, have plenty of access on 1600 North. I could also do the same thing. I could cluster, I could take, I have the fault line, I could go for the same type of thing, even if I donated it to the city, and those people would, or do the clustering. And so all those people that just bought their 1 acre lots and are building their beautiful homes and expect that to be what's around them, I could also do the same thing. I could possibly cluster and leave some open areas up by the hill. So I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think it's like some of the previous people have said, you move here because you want to live in the acreage. All the acreage around us is all 2.5 acres. Most of them are 2.5 acres. Is that right, Sean? Most around my field. So that's two. I would say they're 2.5. So
on the north side. On the south side, they're 1.
yeah. So okay. So they're 1 acres or 2.5 acre lots, and people love that. That's why they live there. So it doesn't seem right. And when we did the TDRs years ago, they said to change zoning was really hard and very unusual to do that. And so by people taking that into consideration, that's what they plan on it. They'll have 2 acre lots, and then they kind of say, well, okay, now we have 1 acre lots. But then to cut it down to, again, 1/2 acre lots, it doesn't seem right. So myself personally, I can't see this development. It's on the other side of the hill. It does not affect my view. The trail, you know, I worry about trespassers, but that doesn't affect me personally at all. But I think it sets a precedent for what someone else can do and what I could do, which would destroy a lot of people that live around me. And I don't plan on doing that in my lifetime, but I won't live forever, so I don't know what will happen. And so I don't like the precedent of it. I don't think anything's harmful is meant by it, but I think harm is done when you change the zoning. And let's see if I have anything else to say. I guess that's it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schreinian.
Hello, my name is Spencer Anderson. My neighbor, Brother Murdoch, I think spoke much more eloquently than I did, than I will, but I just want to second the opinion that I'm against the development. We moved here 10 years ago. I live in the north, was that the southeast property there. And when we moved in 10 years ago, it was all this talk about 2 acres, and it just seems like broken promises. Like my wife said, that we couldn't, where are you going to hold the line? I think additional trails, kind of like the fireworks show, seems to bring a lot of people that are outside of Mapleton, which is fine. We want to welcome everybody, but that just increases more and additional traffic. We live right across from Clegg Canyon, and Mike Namelka made the same deal to take out a couple lots, but they shrunk the size of some of the lots and put the large ones pretty much out of view. So on average, it's kind of the same thing. You're shrinking the number of of lots, but you end up creating this high-density look and feel that's really claustrophobic, over-exaggeration, but by 400, where you're getting large houses that are like those Alpine $5 million homes on a smaller and smaller lot. So, yeah, it may not drop the property value, but it's even worse because you're building a large, expensive home on a small property, so the distance between the houses are really small. We also experienced the parking lot outside of our house. Some of our stuff is stolen, drunks, condoms, paraphernalia, trash, noise. I would assume that that would continue. And no personal offense, but it sounds like the city development representative does not represent the citizens, but the developer in the language you're using. And I would hope that the city would defend the residents, not the developers. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll have discussion. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Just quickly, while you're still thinking through that, on the access issue, there is a limit of 30 homes on a single access loan. When a home has two frontages, those do not count into it. So we didn't count the ones on the corners because they have access on 400 North, where fire access can get to them from that ways. So you only have those three and the one additional in Sheranian, so that it has, when it was originally approved and now would still meet those
So how
standards.
many lots does it then have?
They have 23, and there's one here currently for 24, and then you've got those three.
Okay. Any thoughts from the commissioners?
Yeah, I mean, I think I share some of the same concerns that have been expressed. Definitely the fact that there's only one way in and one way out. I mean, I think that's with the numbers that are going to be in there, certainly a safety concern, I think. If there were some type of fire or flood or some other type of emergency like that. And, you know, I don't have the full history here like many of you do, but I agree with the precedent that is often being set with reducing lot sizes. It seems to be becoming more and more frequently asked for. And I like that about our community now, that you know, we have bigger lot sizes and less density. So there are a few of my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Nuttall. You know, it's interesting over the history. I've been in Mapleton for 25 years and have watched the TDR and the growth and all of that. And the TDR program was a blessing and a curse because it opens up land, but now we deal with developers being able to use that as a density buy down, and it's allowable by statute and by law. So it creates a difficult situation. And as commissioners, we are not the deciding body. We are a recommending body. The city council is the deciding body. So as we recommend to the city council, whatever that recommendation is this evening, please make sure that you come to the city council meeting and make your voices heard as well.
That meeting's next Wednesday, so. for your calendars.
Yep. Any other thoughts from commissioners?
I think it's worth mentioning that in the case of the preserve, there was a petition to increase density, right? And this is not the same. It's a petition to actually decrease the total density, so they're not totally comparable. The other thing I think to keep into mind is if the TDR program wasn't in place, those 37 acres that the city now owns, those would be developed, correct? So you would see homes going in up there.
Potentially.
Potentially.
It's steep, but potentially, yes.
So that's one of the values of the open space is the TDR is allowed for that, to not to be developed on the hill where everyone would see from as far away as the freeway. So that's another benefit of it. And like Rich said, we have to honor those TDRs that were granted, and it's within the statute of Mapleton City Code to do a planned development like this that would allow for clustering. And because they're willing to give up density and give up some land to the city to allow for a trail system. And I also would say putting in a defined trail is probably going to help a little bit with the trespassing, because then you actually can stay on a specific area and not wander into your property. And also, if you have $1 million houses there, you have more people policing those that would actually be going on the trail. So I feel like that would actually help your situation as well. Though I understand that change is not fun, and you expect something in life, and life sometimes doesn't give you that, I don't see anything within this proposal that would make it so that we shouldn't recommend it.
That being said, would you like to make a motion?
I'd actually like to hear from our new people before.
I understand, and I empathize and sympathize with those who spoke. I do understand your situation, but I also know and see the growth of Utah County, especially Mapleton. By state law, we have to have growth. You know, they can't put us in a little bubble and us say no. There has to be growth, so it's responsibility of this council and also city council to kind of see where the best growth is possible. We can't just shove it all to the west side. That's also not fair. And so I think that what has been placed before us is a reasonable and responsible way to divvy up the land. Like they said, that they're smaller. Instead of the 28 or 30, there's 26. So they are looking at that as well. So it doesn't feel so not rural. But I do understand, but I don't see a reason to not go forward with it.
I agree with that too. For the fact that I like that they've changed things, but they have also decreased the amount, you know, of lots. And I think it's still, with the space that you're not able to use anymore, it will feel still a little more open, even though you are clustering those houses. And where it all fits within compliance, I would recommend that it goes through.
Okay, who'd like to make the motion?
Is that a motion?
That was a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here and being involved in the process. Please come to the city council meeting,
6 o'clock Wednesday.
6 o'clock, and make your voices heard. Hopefully we can come to some reasonable agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll let you know if there's the second meeting in June.
Okay.
How's everybody around?
Sorry, what?
Everybody around,
Excuse me,
next meeting?
Sean, did you mention something about vacating a road?
Yeah, and it's included in the staff report in the motion.
So that was part of that motion?
Yeah, just the little section.
Because we didn't really talk about that, and I
Right.
just was curious.
It's in the staff report.
So yeah, 27th would be the next possible meeting. We'll just get with you if there's one. Okay?
I might not be.
I won't be here, Sean.
Sean, I think that you